live and in person.
Yes, is. Hey, hey, go ahead and run our intro music real fast, Jerry. That's good. Pause for that. Okay, great.
I don't have
What
it.
do you have in your hand right now? Oh no, I know. What do you have in your hand right now, Jerry?
I have a glass of bubbly. Would you care to know why?
Yes, I would love to know why you and I both have these awesome, wonderful cold glasses of bubbly.
Absolutely. Because in the past week, maybe even previous, but we noticed this past week that we passed 100 downloads. We're actually now a little over, I think, 125 downloads. Not for sure who all is listening, where these people are coming from, but thank you to each and every one of you who do listen and has contributed to the 125 plus downloads that we have. So, yes, we've broken out the bubbly and we each have a glass. And here's to 100. And hopefully the next 100 will come shortly.
Also, this is our fifth actual episode. Woohoo!
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Number five. Number five.
I love cooling the game.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What's not to love? Speaking of things you love, I just found out that I've got to move. I love the fact that you're in real estate. Yeah, because I'm probably going to need your help.
Oh, really?
Absolutely,
Why do you
man.
have to move? What's going on?
Pretty sure my house is haunted, man. My walls are talking.
Really?
The other day, I heard one say to the other wall, I'll meet you at the corner.
Oh, good gravy.
You agree, right? I got to move
Yes, I have to sell you a house just because you're. Yeah.
because my walls are talking.
Ooh, that's bad, man.
Oh, that's good. You got to admit it. I know you hate to show it, but that was a good one there.
You think so, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
I don't. You know, I would help you buy your house, Jerry, but as you know, and all my friends know, or most of them call me, they say I'm the world's cheapest man.
Cheapest man?
Yeah, but I'm not buying
Oh, yeah. Why would you when you're that cheap, right? Absolutely.
it.
I got you.
Woo.
Here's to that. Here's to 125 downloads. And oh, that is good stuff. By
That
the
is.
way,
Let me just go ahead.
I just started to say that I know that my daughter and your wife insist that we're wrong, but there's just no two ways about it. Wine is supposed to be cold. I don't
Ice
care if
cold.
it's white, red. It doesn't matter. Wine is supposed to be drank only when it's cold, and this is very well chilled as it should be. Uh, yeah, it's good wine. It's a good sweet wine, a good sweet red wine that is cold as can be. What's not to love?
I know, right? And since we're talking about this wine, let's just go ahead and shoot the makers of this a prize because this is probably the best wine I've ever had, to be
Oh,
honest.
I would second
I'm
that.
not sure. I'm not sure how the end of this show is going to be because this bottle's going to probably be gone.
Yeah, very true.
It's Stella Rosa La Originale, and it's black, is what it's called. It's only supposed to be semi-sweet, but
Pretty good
man, this
stuff.
stuff's good. Oh, it's good, and it's ice cold. It tastes better than grape juice. I'm telling you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Did you have a good week?
I did. It's
Well, that's
been
good to
a
hear.
much slower week this week for me, and
Those are
sometimes
good to
that's
have
okay.
sometimes.
I've been trying to catch up on emails and good stuff.
There you go.
Sometimes you do that. Um,
Sometimes that is very helpful to just take a second to regroup and back up and make sure you've got all your ducks in a row and you're better prepared for things that come and you're better equipped to handle them. So yeah, it's often very helpful.
Also, not that anybody else cares, but I want to throw it out there. NFL season is about to unofficially get started with OTAs and mini camps, so that's always a good thing when they're getting ready to start and fire that whole process up.
Absolutely. And I will begin my attempt to reclaim my title as fantasy champ. Only one year
you need
removed from you winning it, but
you need some more wine. Go ahead, it's all
think
right.
so. Hey, you can say whatever you want, but I won last time, so there is that.
You have no proof of this.
Oh, yes, I do.
the
Yes, I do. Give me 5 minutes, and I'll show you the picture of the life-size trophy that I won. As soon as I go through some Photoshop.
well, see, that's the glorious thing of being on a podcast. Nobody can see your picture of the Photoshop.
Oh, I can post a copy of it or a link to it here.
Yeah, that's not. Nobody needs that. I, I had last season all the way up until like the final 2 weeks of the season. I think that was mine. And of course, in my standard form, my running back got injured and spent the season.
But he was injured early, wasn't he?
Yeah, no. He
Yeah, he
didn't get
was
injured
too.
till like, oh well. I was still good. It's all
What
good.
was that guy's name? He was a rookie. Had the funny name Etienne or whatever it is. That dude. You
Travis
had
Etienne.
a teen. You had him. He went out pretty early, I think.
No, I had Derrick Henry last
Oh well, yeah, yeah. You have a horrible luck with running backs. The ones you get that are good, it seems like without fail, they end up getting hurt. So yeah.
So, I got several disclaimers to put out to in this episode, Jerry. Disclaimer number one: because
Okay.
of how good this wine is, I have no idea what the end of the show is going to sound like because it's really good, and I'm a lightweight.
That it is.
Uh, Disclaimer two: uh, well, I've already forgot what disclaimer two is about.
Yeah. Once again, this wine is good stuff.
It
Mocha
is
says she
indeed.
wants to be on the fantasy draft email list. We can make that happen.
Yeah. Well, one more loser is a good thing to have. So that's good.
Oh me. Yeah, you are feeling the effects of the first few sips, I do believe.
Yeah. Well, last week we covered a pretty hard
Yeah, we
topic,
did.
and I'm glad we did it. I'm glad we went there. I'm glad we covered some things. We helped some folks. I hope.
Exactly.
Uh, this show here is going to be a lot uh, less of that, I think. And we're looking for input. I think we want to do a monthly special show, and we're trying to debate whether that should be a rapid fire back and forth between you and I, or if we should concentrate on one topic like we did last week. The numbers show that the show from last week, eh, so kind of hesitant about doing another one that's really that big and that deep. Uh, so what do you think, Jerry? What's your initial thoughts?
Um, well, I kind of go both ways. Um,
Oh,
I see the good and the bad of both sides of it. I like the idea from the sense that we get to briefly, very briefly explore a whole bunch of topics. So if we've come across several things that we think this would be interesting to discuss, but maybe it's not, full uh, episode material. Maybe it just doesn't have, enough pulling power to last for that period of time. So I get that. Um, but I also wonder if we're how interesting that will end up being if we're just simply jumping around from topic to topic. So, yeah, I get both aspects of it. We've talked about two or three different things. I do think it's probably the best one that we have come up with so far. So it's probably going to be the format that we go with, at least initially.
oh, sorry. That
No, you're
I'm
fine.
just want to let you know that bottle of wine is now history.
dinner glasses. We haven't finished it yet, but we're getting close. And yes, Mocha, you're right. I am jealous of those who love to feel the uh, wind blowing through their hair on their motorcycles. And again, guys, I don't want anyone to misunderstand what I was saying last week. I understand the lure. I understand why people would want to do it. All I'm saying, yeah, I'm sure it's got to be more fun. All I'm saying is that as a government, I find it hard to believe that we would encourage people to take acts that we know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, will probably end up meaning and end up in more of those killing themselves far too early. So I get why people want to do it. I was talking to Steve after the show last week, and I was talking about the fact I've never ridden a motorcycle much, but I can only imagine if you're in the middle of July or August, especially if you live in a city, how hot those things have got to be. I can certainly see a lot of reasons why people would not want to wear them. I get that. I just don't want our government, or can't see why our government would encourage that behavior. So I get it. So this week, who's going to lead off? You or I?
Uh, well, I don't care to lead off this time, but I want to just throw out a couple of those little nitpick things
Sure.
that we've that's happening right now. That before we get into the topics, uh, it, man, okay, Jerry,
Yes.
future reference.
Okay.
No wine during the show.
You sure? So
I'm
far
pretty
from me,
sure.
it's making it much more fun.
Okay, well, maybe we'll do more wine at the shows. Maybe.
Maybe.
Just on your side, not on my side, because I have a hard enough time focusing as it is. Uh,
You're probably right. We should probably wait till after the show, maybe tomorrow when we sober up and actually listen to this show and realize how stupid we really sounded. Then we can decide whether or not we should ever attempt to do this again.
yeah, exactly. I just want to say, okay, so, and we don't usually cover sports here. We don't usually do that. That's not kind of why we're here. But I just want to say, if anyone follows football at all, and I'll get off of this real quick and get on to our topic, but I don't usually have a lot of love for a guy named Baker Mayfield. Uh, I think he's kind of a hothead. He's a world class athlete, obviously. But my man, if I'm him today, I am so angry with the Cleveland Browns. First of all, they went out, they paid another guy to come take his place. They paid the other guy, Deshaun Watson, $230 million up front cash to come take his place. And they have yet to do anything with Baker. Now it seems that Deshaun is going to be missing half of the season. Would you like to know why? And it kind of ties into what I'm going to be talking about tonight.
Why is that?
Deshaun's been accused by 66 different women,
Yes. Yes.
66 different massages of inappropriate behavior. Uh, and it's very likely that he's going to be suspended for at least some, maybe all of this coming season. And there was a report today. I think Adam Schefter made the report that Cleveland is actually thinking of trying to keep Baker through this year and make him play while Deshaun is serving a suspension.
I could
Man,
be wrong, Steve. Just sorry to interrupt. I could be wrong, but you're making it sound like Baker's number two on the list. I had the impression that he is now down to third. Jacoby Brissett, I believe, is number two
Jacoby
on the
Brissett,
list, or
yeah,
Jacoby Brissett, I believe, is number two on their list. Baker Mayfield went from being starting quarterback and having a pretty good year to the last I heard being number three on the quarterback list.
right, and that's because he had surgery. That's why that the way he was. He played half the season hurt, had to take the last 3 weeks of the season off. He just couldn't go anymore. Had to have surgery, and that's why he dropped down to number three. If it were just between Jacoby and Baker starting, Baker starts 9 out of 10 times.
I agree.
Uh,
He's got a gripe. Uh, they're obviously, I don't even know what they want to happen here. Are they wanting, hoping some of the team will make him a good offer and that they could just trade him away?
it
Um, I
it's
don't know.
$40 million. it's his the rest of his contract is guaranteed, so they're wanting somebody to come in and give them a draft pick or two for him and take his salary, and nobody
Yeah,
has to do that. That's what it comes down to. But you know, and it's not just Baker. They all of, I think you and I both agree that everybody who plays a sport for a living gets paid way more money than
they're
probably
worth.
they should.
Yep.
And kudos to them for getting it because hey, if I had the physique or the talent, whatever, to make that kind of money for doing a sport, I'd be all over it. Um, but I just wanted to, man, I just feel for the man. Trade him, release him, let him go do something. Why are you just holding this young man's career in limbo? It's just when you see dysfunction in any organization, you just feel for the people who are associated with that dysfunction. I've been in dysfunctional stores before in retail or worked for dysfunctional bosses before. Not you, Jerry. And you just feel
Sure.
trapped. You just feel like, "Wow, why am I here?" And
Very
it's a
true.
tough situation to get out of there. One of our good friends is he works at a factory that is very dysfunctional,
Yep.
and he feels trapped because they pay him good money, but man, they do not know how to do things. So I just wanted to bring that out, man. I just feel real bad for him and anybody else caught in that kind of experience. Oh, the other
Yes.
thing I'm celebrating today, Jerry, I got a new headset, so hopefully I won't be popping and cracking in everybody's ear. I've heard that after one
There you
episode,
go.
and I thought I fixed it, and then it came back last episode, so hopefully that's all gone. And this one sounds wonderful and great. Woo!
I had not heard it myself, but hopefully it will be better.
Well, Jerry, that's because you don't listen to our podcast.
That's true. I think I said it on one of the podcasts, and that has not changed. I have still, to this point, never listened to one podcast, not
uh,
someone else's, not our own. I've never listened to a podcast. So, hey, why start now?
oh, see, that just hurts. You should at least listen to us.
Have you ever listened to a full episode, one of our podcasts?
I've listened to all of our episodes.
Afterwards, you went back and
Yeah,
listened to them.
absolutely.
Okay. I've
That's
never
how.
listened to one.
Well, to me, that's how I try to improve and try to get a little better. I don't want to, because I'm very, I step on your toes a lot, and I'm trying to curb that. And I talk fast, so I'm trying to slow down so that you can get in there and get in the conversation. And that's all because I've listened to our.
No, let's be honest now. You're only trying to change because you had to face the fact that you've been proven wrong on every single disagreement we had, and you're getting tired of coming in second place when there's only two competitors. So, yeah,
Oh my goodness, gosh,
you don't agree with that?
no, not at all. In fact, in fact, Mr. Jerry, why don't
Yes.
you go first today and let's talk about your topic?
Oh, by all means, by all means, and I'll be. I'm not surprised at all. By the way, you guys will see why here in a few minutes when Steve begins talking about his. But if I had a topic like yours where I knew that once again I was going to be proven wrong, I would be certainly putting it off as well.
You absolutely cannot
But
prove thoughts incorrect. So you're wrong.
okay. Anyway, my topic this week is it open season for the left to criticize anything faith based? Um, and that seems to be the case. It doesn't matter if it's a sports figure, celebrities, businesses. If you have religious beliefs, if you have faith based morals, it seems that in today's society, you're going to be demonized for them. And it really doesn't seem to matter who. Really popular celebrities and Mark Wahlberg, Candace Cameron Bure, Tyler Perry, Hobby Lobby, Chick fil A. Just the other day, the five pitchers for the Tampa Bay Rays that refused to wear the LGBTQ logos on their uniforms during Pride Night celebration. Those are all examples. Now, there's a recent specific article that brought this to the forefront for me again. And it was another article that I saw that really is more of an attack than it is an article on Amy Coney Barrett, Supreme Court Justice of the United States. Now, to be fully honest, I didn't agree with her appointment. I didn't think that it was fair. Little background on that. On March 16, 2016, President Obama nominated Merrick Garland to be a United States Supreme Court Justice. And Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said that he was not going to consider it, that he said it was too close to the election and that the next Supreme Court justice should be chosen by the next president. Keep in mind, that was an election that was 8 months away. He said, Mitch McConnell, he said, and I quote, all we are doing is following the long-standing tradition of not fulfilling a nomination in the middle of a presidential year. Well, that doesn't sound too bad, right? The only problem is it's not true. It was 100% false. The same thing has happened 9 times since the Civil War, and in all 9 cases, the positions were filled that year. To make a long story short, the hearings were not conducted. Merrick Garland was prevented from even being considered to be a Supreme Court justice. 4 years later, President Trump nominates Amy Coney Barrett to be United States Supreme Court justice, and this happened on September 26, less than 6 weeks before the next election. She was finally confirmed 1 week before the election. Now, keep in mind, Merrick Garland, 8 months, well, that's too soon. That's too close to the election. Can't do that. Amy Coney Barrett, 6 weeks, not a problem. Now, to be honest, I don't really care which way we want to go. All I'm saying is that let's be fair and let's have the same set of rules. I don't care which party's in office. This is a situation you could describe to a group of first graders, and they would say that's not fair. Just whatever the rules are going to be, let's make sure that it's consistent. Uh, but that didn't happen in this case. So I get the fact that maybe the appointment itself wasn't fair. Now, none of that is Justice Barrett's fault. She didn't. She's not to be blamed for any of that. And I haven't. So anyone that even claims that she is at fault, she had a great resume. She was very qualified for the office, and from everything that I saw, in my humble opinion, she has been a very um, good Supreme Court justice since she's been nominated. Oh, by the way, she was also nominated and confirmed by the Senate for the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in 2017, and then, of course, again had to go through the same process in 2020. Um, so the woman had a great resume. She has done a good job. And yet you continue to see articles like the one that I saw. Now, the one that I saw was in newsweek.com. The title of the article was this: What is People of Praise? Question mark. A cult tied to Amy Coney Barrett. Well, that's certainly a clickbaiting title, saying that Amy Coney Barrett, Supreme Court Justice, was part of a group that was a cult. Um, and I want to read you a couple sentences. The title itself is bad enough, but a couple of sentences from the article. It says a sworn affidavit from the 1990s from a former member of a secretive religious group with alleged ties to Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett described an environment of complete control of one woman. The affidavit, which was detailed in a report by The Guardian published Monday, also describes alleged instances in which the founder of the People of Praise and his wife took part in sexual displays in front of children and others. Now, when you read way down to the bottom of the article, you find out that the origins of this allegation was based on a divorce case going back to 1993. What is that? 29 years ago. 29 years ago, a divorce case. A woman by the name of Cynthia Carnick was going through divorce with her ex-husband. Cynthia did not want her ex-husband to take their children when he had when he had visitation rights to them. She did not want him taking those children to visit friends of his who were in this religious group. Now, we all know that husbands and wives never say anything that's not true about each other in a divorce case, right? Yeah,
No, never.
that would never happen. Uh, but yet, that's what this is based on. Oh, and by the way, the matter was eventually settled between the parties out of court. A criminal investigation was completed and it turned up nothing. But now, 30 years later, the media seems to think that it's relevant. The media seems to think that it's newsworthy. Well, that's what we try to do, is to determine if it's newsworthy. When you read the articles, they don't even, or they do even admit that the reason they went digging for this is simply because of the leaked draft opinion from the Supreme Court that seems to say that they are poised to overturn Roe versus Wade. So they're coming up with material that might potentially, possibly make some of the people look bad that are voting for that. Um, remember
Another
when?
way,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, another way of looking at that, Jerry, is to try to intimidate those justices
Oh, sure.
into one way or they are. And guess what? If they go by the letter of the law, the attempt to
Intimidate.
uh, intimidate, thank you, a Supreme Court justice is a felony, which Brett Kavanaugh is also under those same attacks. A couple of right after that happened, one of his neighbors down the street brought a whole group to protest in front of his house. His wife and kid, he doesn't live in a gated community. He doesn't have a wall around his house. His kids were home. His wife was home. He was home. They were they were they were protesting right outside his house.
Yep.
And then just today, a 26-year-old man was got caught near his house with a gun, ammunition, pepper spray, a knife, crowbar, zip ties, and
Jeez.
some other tools to break into the house. And the scary thing, Brett and his family, his children and his wife were there at the time of this arrest. It happened right outside their house. Um, so all because of that same issue, Roe versus Wade, and you know, this guy's going to get charged with the fullest extent of the law because he had weapons.
And it should be.
But the neighbor also should be. You can't, and it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you fall on. If they were doing this to uh, uh, Ruth Bader Ginsburg before she retired, I would be against that. These guys are quote unquote beyond reproach, if you ask me, or
Before
should
she
be
passed
anyway.
away.
Yes,
Yeah, she didn't retire. No, totally agree. Absolutely. This is not a um, political issue from the sense that it's happening only from one side. It certainly happens from both sides, and we should be just as concerned about when it happens to the party that we're not so fond of, because we're certainly, if we allow it to happen, we're setting a precedent. If we don't oppose it, we're setting a precedent. So it's wrong.
right,
It's wrong when it happens, period, either side of the aisle. If you guys remember when I was talking about the article in the beginning, it called the People of Praise, the group that she was supposedly a part of, uh, a secret cult. Well, this website, being the top secret cult website that it is, I decided I'd share their website with you. It's the name of the group, peopleofpraise.org. So, yeah, they've went to great lengths to hide it on the dark web using their name.org. And I would certainly encourage you to go read about it and see if you think it's a secret religious cult. Uh, Full disclaimer, I'd never heard of them before I read this article. And again, it isn't just this article. I've read several articles where Justice Barrett has often been lambasted for her religious beliefs. Even when she was in 2017 being, excuse me, when she was going through her Senate hearings to be appointed to the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, she was being questioned by Senator Dianne Feinstein, who had this to say in her closing remarks about Justice Barrett. She said, "The dogma lives loudly within you, and that is a concern." Think about it. She was basically saying, You make it very obvious that your religious beliefs, the religious dogma, is strong within you, and that is a concern." So I guess she's saying that religious beliefs are okay as long as you hide it, as long as you don't let any of it show, as long as you don't let it be evident in your life that it exists. It's okay. Well, that's scary. That's horrible. If we're saying that about politicians and people in our judicial system, that you cannot have or at least exhibit any religious belief or religious dogma, or if you do, then we're going to question you and express that that is a concern. Where do we go so wrong when we begin to feel that way about people who have religious beliefs? I agree, you can go too far. There are people that sometimes go off the deep end. There's sometimes people who will go to an abortion clinic and begin shooting people, simply saying that abortion is wrong. You're killing babies, so to justify it, I'm going to go kill a bunch of you. Well, obviously that's stupid. That's you can go off the deep end on that side as well. I get that, but just because someone like Amy Coney Barrett has expressed and tried to live a life that is uh, always taking the moral high ground, that we find that suspect, there's something wrong when we begin to do that as a society. What do you think, Steve? You agree? Disagree?
Yeah, um I think it is very dangerous in a nation that's built on religious freedom and the freedom to speak, worship, and when you start from one particular side or another and you attack someone's beliefs, or in a bigger, more government censure, you start attacking someone's rights under our Constitution, that's a problem for me. It's and here's what I mean by that. If you are a Christian and you're pronounced and you're living the life, that from a certain perspective, that means more to me than what you proclaim. How are you living your life?
Absolutely.
Um, but when you're out there and someone attacks you specifically for that reason, then they're attacking our Constitution and our constitutional rights. And especially coming from a politician, that concerns me because your whole job is to protect and honor and be a part of our Constitution. But here's the thing, Jerry. Attacks on Christians aren't just happening in America. Uh, in India, as an example, the Christian population in India is 2.3% of the entire country. There's over a billion people in India.
Right.
2.3% of them are Christian. It's a Hindu majority. Hindu is usually a very pacifistic type religion. Last year alone, over 300 different attacks on Christians inside of India from a Hindu religion. Uh, that doesn't even begin to start talking about the different um, how difficult it is to be a Christian in China or any of the Middle East,
Muslim countries. Yep.
any of the Muslim countries. But the difference between us here and them there is we have a constitution that guarantees that you have the right to worship openly whomever or whatever you choose. If you wish to be several years ago, there was a guy, I want to say Chicago, Minnesota, somewhere in the liberal Midwest, that wanted to take his driver's license picture with a pasta strainer on his head, claiming that he was apostastarian.
Okay.
And they let him
Yep.
because they didn't have the legal wherewithal to say, okay, if that's what you choose to believe in, we can't stop doing that. If
Yep.
you want to be a Muslim, if you want to be Hindu, a Buddhist, Christian, a Jew, you have every right in this country to do it. It's one of the founding principles the country was made on.
True.
So
Now, I
it
would
really
add
bothers
one
me.
caveat to that. All of those rights certainly exist in this country, but there is a limit to those rights. And the limit is usually said very simply. You have all of these rights to practice religion however you want, in worship of whoever you want, in whatever tradition you want, as long as it does not infringe upon the rights of others. So just
Right.
because you have a right to practice religion does not give you the right to force it upon others. It does not allow you to infringe upon others' rights. Now, there are certain cases when there have been a few people who have done that. And as is usually the case, those few will tend to ruin it for the majority. Um, and I get that. But I think that's what's happening again with Amy Coney Barrett. She's being punished for things not that she's done, because everything that she's read, and I'm certainly no historian on Amy Coney Barrett's life, but I've yet to hear that this woman is not an extremely good woman who's lived a good life and tried to be a model citizen, has tried to help and give back more than she has taken from her country. She's a good person. Um And I think that the attacks that I see on her time after time is simply a few people being jerks or a few people trying to punish the majority because of the actions of a few that have tried to force their religious beliefs on others. I did feel it
Certainly.
necessary to throw that in. Somewhere down the line, I would like to also talk about, I forget the lady's name, up in somewhere around Moorhead. The remember the county clerk or whatever her title was, and she refused to sign the same-sex marriage license after the Supreme Court passed the law mandating that that be legal. Um, yeah, I'd like to get into that a little bit sometime too. Totally agree with where she's coming from religiously, um, but somewhere along the line, you've got to set those things aside. And when you take a job like that and you agree to do, whatever the government asks you to do, you don't at that point. To me, in my humble opinion, you're not allowed to become legislator and decide which laws you will and will not follow. Your job that you took an oath to defend is that you will follow the laws of the United States of America. Uh, so, yeah, it's certainly sometimes the actions of a few that causes harm to so many.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, as just throwing it out there, back to this Kavanaugh thing, there's no the greatest crime fighter isn't Batman. It is technically the president of the United States. United States. It's supposed to be that title. Um, his office has been completely silent. A small word back when the the protest happened outside. Then White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said, the president's view is that there are a lot of passion, a lot of fear, and a lot of sadness for many, many people. And that was it. That was all they said. And I'm like, uh, okay, so what are you going to do about this person who didn't have, in my understanding is in most of DC, you have to have a permit to protest so that people are aware and we don't have a national security thing. Where was the permit to protest? Where's the persons, that threatened this man's family with this protest? Are they not under? Instead, she got a special on the NBC show. She got to be highlighted, which was really kind of crazy to me.
Yep,
Don't like it. Don't like it. But
I would agree.
anybody, and, we talk about it coming from both sides, from the liberal side, from the conservative side. Um, but let's just cut brass tacks. So say it. It happens a lot more coming from the left onto Christian conservatives than it does from Christian conservatives going the other way. Um, that's my impression, and that's coming from a liberal media.
Now,
I
which
use
which feature are you
MSNs.
talking about? Because you were last talking about the attempted murder of Kavanaugh. Are you talking about attempted murders or just general attacks?
I'm just talking about general attacks. I
Okay.
mean, those people that own Chick-fil-A and the people that own Hobby Lobby almost lost their business, their livelihood because of liberal attacks, because they simply chose to voice with their money and their donations and with their money, their profits by closing on a day of the week. How many you will never see a Walmart close on Sundays.
Nope. Never will.
They're going to make too much profit on Sunday because people are off work. These companies that choose to do that are taking a financial hit because of their personal beliefs. Um, and that's crazy. That's not the country that we're supposed to be living in. It's kind of crazy to me.
I agree. I hadn't read about I briefly heard about the guy that was trying to kill Kavanaugh. I hadn't really read about it until you were talking about it, and I looked it up. This is really scary. This guy was found to have a Glock 17 pistol, pepper spray, zip ties, a hammer, screwdriver, crowbar, and duct tape in his possession.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
That's
he was
scary.
there to do some business,
Yes, he was. Very
and
scary.
that's you know based on what? Based on that's a fear and intimidation tactic. Even if he only got that far to Brett Kavanaugh, what do the other justices now have to think about? Security details. Um, First of all, let me just say that the fact that this was leaked, their internal memos that they have between each other was leaked from the that is a topic that I would get into all on and of itself. These people, these was it 9 justices, they have to have the ability to communicate candidly with one another on what their thoughts, plans, and if they lose that ability because some aide's aide decides to leak something, that
Yep.
guy ought to be held to the fullest account of the law because that tarnishes the court's ability to read law as it's supposed to, in my opinion.
Do you think that would be illegal? Do you think there is on the statute a law that would prohibit that? There very well could be. I just don't know what it would be.
If it's not, it should be.
But
I
I
mean,
mean,
they
here's
should they
go
should
ahead.
have right to confidentiality.
I agree. I totally agree. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. But I'm just thinking this is not. Remember Trump, how strongly he went after a lot of the leaks when he was president? Now, he had more to work with because a lot of the leaks he was talking about were national security related. Obviously, you're in violation of, huge laws. When you start talking about being charged with being a traitor to your country, which when you mess with national security, that's what you're going to be charged with. Um, there's no question about was it illegal and what can we do to them. But in this case, when it's Roe versus Wade being overturned, there's obviously no national security implications. I don't know what exactly the law would say to prohibit that. So
I don't
obviously, you could
either.
be fired for it. You'd be against internal policy. But as far as being criminally charged, maybe I don't. I just don't know what it would be.
I would certainly hope so. And if it hasn't been up until this point because it's not been an issue, like it probably, when you're hired into those positions, there's a certain amount of esteem, and that esteem has a lot of pressure with it. But if you're beyond that at this point, maybe we need to make that because those people, more than anybody else in our government, I think, have to have the ability to have a candid conversation without it being leaked.
Well, not more than Pentagon, not more than national security people.
Oh, okay, I got you.
But I
I would I
agree,
wouldn't
it
disagree
should
with
be
that.
illegal.
Absolutely,
I do agree with that.
absolutely. So I just want everybody know my second glass of wine is got dry, and I'm very sad.
But it was very good stuff.
Oh man,
Got to admit.
oh, we may have to incorporate that into the routine every Wednesday.
I love how you've changed from we can't ever do this again to we may have to do this every time.
Well, it has lasting effects upon
There you go.
perhaps.
It's grown on me.
Ah, kind of like your facial hair, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh man.
That it does.
Okay, so do you have anything else that you want to add to
Now I've
how?
covered mine.
I do want to throw in also, back to the football thing, and kind of fits into what you were talking about. We have Deshaun Watson, who's accused of all this horrible stuff, and he's opened in and he's given 230 million cash to come in and maybe sit on the bench for a year. A few years ago, we had a quarterback that got ran out of the league because he took a knee and had a prayer time after every good play he made. And that's Tim Tebow. Was he the greatest quarterback that ever lived? No. Did he have serious mechanical issues? Yes. But that's not the reason he was run out of the NFL. you know, Same thing with Colin Kaepernick to some degree. He was taking a knee also for a different reason. Ran out of the NFL. What you know, that's probably not the place to do those things, but really that is another example of an attack on somebody in their faith.
Yeah, it is. If you can prove that either one of those that the things you mentioned is why that they were quote unquote ran out of the league. And I would beg to differ on both cases. I
Yeah.
would say that both of those guys were legitimately not re-signed because they had been tried several times, several places, and were not good enough.
Oh, I
So
don't. I would say that that could be the case with Tebow. I don't think that's the case with Kaepernick.
yeah, it was.
I think he could. I mean, he took a team to the Super Bowl,
So
and then the next year he was dumped.
he
And I
took us.
don't even.
That's kind of like saying Peyton Manning took the Denver Broncos to the Super Bowl. No, Peyton Manning was honest enough to tell the truth about it. They got to and won the Super Bowl despite Peyton Manning. Just because you're the quarterback of a team who makes it to the Super Bowl, and in Peyton Manning's case, a very worthy Hall of Fame recipient, one of the best quarterbacks to ever live, but he was at the end of his career. He himself was honest enough later to say, these guys didn't win because of me, they won despite of me. So I think the same thing would also need to be said about Kaepernick as well.
Okay, I'll let you have that. Just because I know that you need to get a win every
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah,
now.
you go ahead. You're just trying to soften the blow because you know what's coming. So you go right ahead.
Okay, so my topic today, Elon Musk last week made a tweet and it perked my attention because when Elon talks, it's usually about something of substance. Uh,
No.
I like him a lot. He's good people. Um, so Elon tweeted out about Jeffrey, the delayed or the dearly departed Jeffrey Epstein, and where is the list? The list in particular that he's talking about is the client list, the list of clients that Jeffrey either had in his Palm Beach house, the clients he took with him on his airplane to his little island of ill repute, I guess is the best way to put that, down in the Bahamas. Um, and why hasn't that been made public? Uh, Brazil, oh gosh, never can say that lady's name. Uh,
Whose name?
Jeffrey Epstein's former girlfriend, the
Ghislaine
that just
Maxwell.
thank you, Ghislaine. Uh,
Okay.
is her trial's going on currently? She's probably going to be found guilty on multiple counts of human trafficking, which is
No, she already was
terrible.
found guilty.
Oh, was she? Okay,
I'm
good.
almost.
So,
I'll look it up, but I'm pretty sure she was.
so this whole time that this has been going on, there's been a drumbeat for a client list. Uh, now, little background about Jeffrey Epstein. He was a financier. He did not graduate college. He had a way with numbers. He actually taught numbers for a while, grew his business. But this is a, I'm not saying that to build this guy up. I'm just saying how I'm saying it because I want to let you guys know how he was able to ensnare all these powerful people. Uh, this man was a gross, just nasty, gross human being. And most people, well, not most, 45% of Americans feel that he was murdered to protect that list, to protect the clients that visited his isle. Now, uh, most people believe that he was silenced in jail. There's a lot, much to Jerry's chagrin. There are a lot of things that doesn't quite add up um, to make them believe that. Um, But this guy had over 90, had been convicted of over 90 counts of human trafficking, sexual misconduct, sexual misconduct with a minor. Most of his victims were 13 to 15 years old, young girls. Had nothing. He took full advantage of these people and used them and turned them loose and basically said, you know, you can do whatever because they can't touch me.
By the way, one thing real quick. On December
So
29th, 2021, Ghislaine was found guilty of 5 of the 6 charges that she faced.
good. And who did? Okay, just for 1 second, let me allow small rant. Who names their child Ghislaine?
Uh,
Name is that?
I agree.
Ugh. Anyway, sorry. Small rant over.
One other thing, real quick, just to clarify. You had mentioned about his island in the Bahamas. Not that it makes a big difference, but it's actually in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Okay. Well,
Pedophile Island, as it was known.
yeah. And here's some of the names that are uh, the names that I have been linked directly to his plane as part of a manifest, or have been found in some of the books on the island where they have. But it's by no means a complete list. But just look at some of the names on this list: Bill Clinton, Chelsea Clinton, Donald Trump, Tony Blair, the former Britain Prime Minister, Bill Cosby, Woody Allen, Prince Andrew, Bill Gates. All of these people have been either on Jeffrey Epstein's plane or on Jeffrey Epstein's island.
Now,
That's
there's a
not saying
huge
they're all.
difference there.
Yeah,
Now,
there's no
most of
saying that they're
those,
pedophiles.
yes, most of those we know. Uh, I say we know there's zero evidence that they took part in any of the illicit activities. Not, I'm not talking about Prince Andrew. Obviously, there's a ton of evidence on the contrary with him. For every one of the rest of the names that you mentioned, as far as I know, they were not going to his island. They were not, and have never been attempted to be connected to these underage girls, as far as I have ever heard anyone say.
Right,
And
right.
I'm not taking one side or the other. I'm talking about Trump. I'm talking about Bill Gates. I'm talking about Clinton. All of them except for, uh, and there's several other big names that you didn't mention as well that have been linked to some of this. Woody Allen,
I
Harvey
see Woody
Weinstein.
Allen.
Oh, did you? Okay. Woody Allen
Yeah,
has been linked to some of it. Harvey Weinstein obviously has. Prince Andrew is just, his career's done. He's already had to resign being a friggin' prince because of the allegations against him.
yeah. It was really. This is not a guy that you ever wanted to be a part of or be around. Even Donald Trump said, "Yeah, I didn't like that guy much," in Trump's old fashioned way. But
One thing I would like to add at this point is
sure.
you've talked about the list and why the list hasn't come out. Correct me if I'm wrong. There is zero evidence to support that there ever was a list.
No, they don't. Here's the things that they feel like um, are what would lead to a list or be compiled into a list. Harvey or John, Jeffrey Epstein was a paranoid at his home in Palm Springs and his island down in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Right.
Both were under 24-hour surveillance. There were cameras everywhere throughout. He could go to a control room and see what was happening on pretty much every square foot of his apartment, his home, or his island.
Sure.
So that's one thing. And those videos, as far as most folks go, have no idea where they've all went. And you and I have both been in retail, and if you're in retail, a lot of times what happens, so you don't have stacks upon stacks upon stacks of tape sitting everywhere.
They're
You
reused.
watch them, you use them every other day, or after a week you start using the same tape. So maybe they're gone. I get
Another
that.
thing that could have happened to those tapes is there could have come a point with all of the allegations being thrown at him in the last 10, 12 years that he said, you know what? I've got all these tapes that have all this incriminating evidence against me. Maybe I should get rid of them.
Yeah, those would all. But I don't know, and here's why I say
You
that.
don't know why someone would get rid of
No, no,
incriminating evidence against themselves that would send
no,
them
no.
to prison for the rest of their natural life?
Here's why I say that. About 12 years ago, he was tried and found guilty in New York for basically the same thing on a much smaller, and was able to use his money and his influence to get out of it. Basically, had to register as a sex offender and pay a fine, and he was able to walk
I
on
thought that was
charges.
Florida.
that, or maybe it was Florida, that that most people would have to deal with the rest of it. He was able to skate on that, and if you were a man like him with his kind of oxy, I guess, I don't know that you would think that way. I got away with it once. I'll get away with it again. It's
He
good.
didn't exactly get away with it. He went to prison for 13 months. By the way, it was in 2008. It was the state of Florida, and he was charged and convicted of procuring a child for prostitution and of soliciting a prostitute. He served
Right.
almost 13 months in custody. He did have extensive work release. So
Oh,
it's not like
he,
you can say he got away with it and bought his way out. He spent 13 months in prison, at least part
he
time prison.
no, he slept in prison for 13 months. Literally, his driver would pick him up at 6:30 in the morning and bring him back at almost 12 o'clock midnight every night. That's not prison.
Well,
That's a
to me,
hotel room.
it would certainly be enough if I had incriminating evidence against me that they hadn't found yet, and I knew I could, if they did find it, I would go to real prison for the rest of my life. I'd be getting rid of the evidence,
I
and I
can
think
see that.
most intelligent people would get rid of the evidence.
Yeah, you would think, right?
You would think. So I'm not disputing it. I'm just saying there are several common sense reasons why that evidence in those tapes could have disappeared and will never be found because they no longer exist.
Sure. I want to also just point out a couple of reasons why there's a lot of, just in the small list that I read, there's a lot of power, money in that list. So if somebody's on that list and has money or power, they can make problems go away pretty easily. Would you like to hear some why this is believed by 45% American population that he didn't kill himself?
Sure.
I'm not saying it's true. I'm
Sure.
saying what was
But do you think it's
reported.
true?
Okay, and I would find myself in that 45%.
Yes,
Absolutely.
you would. Okay, go ahead. Give us the reason. Give us the convincing reason why Jeffrey Epstein did not commit suicide but was murdered.
Okay. Let me see here. Hang on one second. um, okay, so first of all, I do not want anyone to believe that I'm siding with Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, guy was garbage, trash. He hurt children,
100%.
uh, and I just can't stress that enough. Whatever happened to him, whether he did it to himself or Hillary had it done for him, to him, so that Bill and Chelsea didn't get caught up in another scandal. I don't care. What sucks about the whole thing is the fact that because he died, regardless of how he died, there's 90 plus victims that get no justice. That sucks. And two
Yes, it
days,
does.
in like 3 days, 2, 3 days right before his death, um, he changed his will, moved all of his money to an offshore account that was highly protected so that any lawsuits wouldn't be able to touch that. The cash, anyway. I mean, they were able to settle out for some of the stocks and some of the other things that he owned, some of the other assets. The cash was highly protected so that his brother, who was his only known really living relative, could have access to the money.
Who he wasn't even
So
close to, by the way.
not close at all, exactly.
Not
Which
close at all.
which actually figures into this when we get into it. So even Attorney General William Barr described Epstein's death as a perfect storm of screw ups.
Yep.
There's a lot of things here that was wrong, that shouldn't have been, um, and make you just scratch your head. As we've said 1,000 times, Jerry, if you want to start a conspiracy theory, you grab a kernel of truth, you climb to a mountain that's snow covered, and you roll the kernel down, and it's picking up snow as it rolls down, and then eventually it becomes an avalanche, and whatever comes with it comes with it. Right. So the kernel of truth here is that there are a lot of inconsistencies in what happened.
Sure.
Um,
Several.
The,
William Barr summed it up very well.
yeah, perfect storm of screw ups. Both the FBI and the Inspector General's office, Department DOJ, did investigations into his death. Um,
And what did those find, by the way?
those found, according to one of the two autopsies, or one of the
No, no, no.
two,
The two investigations. What did they find? You just
I'm
mentioned two
getting to that.
investigations.
I did. I'm getting there.
Okay.
According to one of the two uh, coroner's reports,
There was only
uh,
one coroner's report, by the way.
there was two.
No, there was one. There was one
I,
coroner. Now, the defense had their own rebuttal witness go in, but they was not a coroner. There was only one coroner's report.
there was no defense. So it was his brother.
Yes, who hired defense attorneys to try to combat it. But the point is that was not a coroner, so there was only one coroner's report. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The wine's getting to me. Anywho, sorry. So basically, 2 days or several weeks before he finally died, before he was either killed or killed himself, there was what they said, and I quote, was a attempt on his part to commit suicide. Um, when they found him, he came to. He was not dead, obviously, and he said that he was attacked, that he did not try to commit suicide. Um, just what he said. Uh, the way that, and some of these things you're not going to be able to see on our podcast, unfortunately, because, but I highly encourage people to check it out. Basically, the two guards that were scheduled to watch Jeffrey Epstein uh, the night of his death were asleep and were charged subsequently with falsifying records.
And they admitted to
Uh,
that.
they did admit to that. Um, before they moved, 2 days prior to his death, they moved his roommate, his cellmate, out of the cell, so he was alone. Um, also, he was supposed to. Um, we're going to wrap this up real quick. I'm going to try anyway, just because this is going a little long for us. Uh, so Jeffrey Epstein, cellmate was removed, guards were asleep. The cameras that were supposed to be watching his cell and the hallway outside of his cell were not
No, no,
operable.
no, no. Two of the
Oh yeah,
cameras directly outside his jail were not functioning. The cameras in the hallway were functioning.
okay. It's not the report I got, but we'll go with it. We'll go with what you said.
Okay.
Just
I'll elaborate on that in a minute.
and basically, the way that they said that one of the witnesses and one of the ways that they thought that they could pin down that he actually committed himself was killed himself was that one of the criminals in a different cell heard sheets ripping in his room. Um, the actual sheet that was around his neck was actually hemmed. It wasn't even ripped. So, um, and there was a couple of bones in the neck. I don't know. I'm not a forensic uh, pathologist. I don't know. One of the bones in the neck that is usually broken during a strangulation was broken in three spots. That same bone is not usually broken in a typical hanging. Um, 45% believe he was murdered. Another 39%
It's
not
unsure.
sure. Only 16% Americans think that he actually committed suicide. Um,
Yep.
some people actually think that he faked his death, and part of
And
those
still
powers that
alive.
people got is still alive.
Still
Um,
alive.
so I don't really believe that. I do believe he was murdered, and you're getting ready to tell me why I'm wrong.
Yes, I am. First of all, I would like to give you a statement that supports what you believe. Okay. Yeah, you're probably surprised, but here it comes. Christmas ornaments, drywall, and Jeffrey Epstein. Name three things that don't hang themselves. So said John Kennedy a Republican senator from Louisiana who made that quote in November of 2019. Steve, I now have to say something I never thought I would say. Congratulations, you now agree with the Kennedys.
Oh, jeez.
The two guards who were supposed to be monitoring Epstein were charged with falsifying records, where they said that they checked on him every 30 minutes. Um, they obviously did not. He had been dead for hours when he was found at 6:30 in the morning. They had not checked on him, I believe, since 10:30 the night before. They were charged with falsifying records. They admitted to it. There was video evidence that showed them sleeping um, for a period of 3.5 hours. They spent considerable time browsing the internet. Um, and apparently, this was just commonplace for them. Nothing was going on. They just didn't make rounds for hours and hours, and they would falsify records at the end of the shift. There was a massive amount of screw ups, as William Barr, the Attorney General of the United States, alluded to. He also had this to say in an interview with Associated Press published in November 22nd of 2019. He acknowledged that he had his own questions initially about the circumstances of Epstein's death until he said that he personally reviewed the security footage from the corridor outside, which showed no one coming to or leaving the vicinity of Jeffrey Epstein's cell. Now, again, that it would have helped if the two cameras directly outside his cell were working. They were not. They had malfunctioned and were not working. But video surveillance does show that no one entered the cell area for any time. It showed Jeffrey Epstein going to his cell. No one, and when they locked him up and left, no one else was in the vicinity until the next morning when he was discovered dead. Another thing, Jeffrey Epstein changed his will 2 days before he died.
Yeah, I mentioned that.
2 days. Why would he change his death? And obviously, that's not proof of anything. But if he was murdered, what a coincidence! Why would he have felt the need 2 days before his death to update his will? Two
Well,
days.
he was known to change his will quite a bit, actually.
No, he was not. I would first of all, from what I heard, this will, they said that he changed his will or updated his will. It was the only will presented. So for you to prove that he had a history of doing that, where are all the other wills? They were not presented. None of them were, and should have been. Before, when you go to probate, what they attempt to do is to determine what is the last legal will. This was the only will presented at probate. It's why I said that I disagreed with you. I should have made that more clear. I don't know that there was or was not more, but this was the only will presented at probate. So, if William Barr, the Attorney General, a very conservative Attorney General, said that he personally reviewed the security footage and that there was no one that entered the area for several hours before his death, to me, that's evidence enough that says that he did commit suicide. Again, there is zero evidence. There's a ton of speculation. Anytime you've got such a person who's committed such heinous crimes, and especially as you said, when he has been accompanied by such famous people from around the world, and it's not, you give a good list, but guys, there is princes and kings from around the world that could be added to that list. This guy hobnobbed with the best of the best from around the world, so he absolutely, if he had dirt on these people, they say whenever there's a murder, the first thing the police normally do is look for people with a motive. My gosh, this case, you've got tons of powerful people with tons of motives. So, yeah, it's easy to see why there was a lot of suspicion. Again, if it happened, you would have had to have several people be in on it. Several people. The odds of those people remaining totally silent, covering up for each other 100%, remaining consistent throughout all these years in their testimony. Not one of them giving in to the offers of millions and millions of dollars from people wanting to write books and make movies. Not one has ever changed their story. It's still the same story that's been told. To me, it's pretty clear cut that he did commit suicide. But anyway, we're an hour and 10 minutes into
Oh
this. I
wow.
think we're going to get knocked off pretty before long. We're gonna have
Yeah.
to call this quits pretty soon. Let's go through as far as Epstein's list. Newsworthy or no?
No, not really newsworthy.
I would agree.
I would say it's probably done, but there are some really big wigs that really need to be vetted a little thicker because of their association.
I would agree with that. I would. Open season for the left to criticize anything faith based. Is it
I think
newsworthy?
that I think it is newsworthy. I'll give that a thumbs up, and I think that it's newsworthy on both sides. Be it if it's the hardcore going against on either side. Anytime you get the fringe right and the fringe left, and they are attacking the people in the middle, which is most of us, that's a problem to me, and it needs to be broadcast.
Absolutely, completely agree. That I do. Guys, we're sorry that we have ran over. We thought we had it our timing down a little bit better. I guess we spent a little bit too much time celebrating and drinking the wine that we loved. We will try to do better next time. Thanks for those that joined us. Thanks for those that download and listen to us every week. Again,
We
uh,
appreciate you
thank
so
you so
much.
much. Absolutely. Guys, take care. We'll see you next week.
See ya.